There's this blue
All
person
right.
trying to get on. But okay, I'm going on mute.
Xin chào các trưởng. Hopefully, oh, there's no cha and oh, sorry. Okay, so just chào các trưởng today. We have a very exciting session today. Is going to given to us by trưởng James. Trưởng James là huấn luyện viên trung cấp. Um, he's a wonderful friend of mine for a long time, and like I said earlier with the Jung Hill, right? His level of energy is very high. So if you attend his session in person, you would want to stay away from him. Otherwise, he's gonna swing his hand at you without knowing that. So we're gonna see that today on screen, of course. So you be safe. Don't worry about that. Um, Today the session is going to be shut down. I mean lockdown, but not shut down. We will, Jing will talk about how we can um, still engage our kids. Still, how can we teach our kids through this pandemic? All right. So let's start. Let's start with a lesson. Jing James, can you go with opening prayers?
Yes, thank you. So, Yin Jia wa gong wa tan tan. Amen. Dear Lord, thank you for gathering us here together on this beautiful day. We pray for our fallen Hunjung. May he rest in peace as Lindon Damisavio mourns the loss of one of their own. We pray for the intercession of Mary, as today we celebrate the Assumption of Mary. May that we all aspire to be the perfect disciple, just like Mary was, and as we can one day be in heaven with both Mary and Jesus in life everlasting. In this, we pray to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gekchung, for calling on today. I know on the West Coast it might be a little bit early for some people. 10 a.m. might be actually when I would usually wake up when I was in San Jose on a Saturday. So, and then all those winters on the East Coast, currently at 1 p.m. Midday, post lunch with that post lunch kind of snooze right now. But I hope that today what we're going to get through is kind of some of my experiences with online Sinhuat. Currently, like MTA kind of mentioned, I'm the Foggen one for Linhuat Song. So I've been monitoring the Sinhuat for the 14 ones online as I stalk them through Facebook, Instagram, and whatever other mediums they use. Up north in Lindor Tanya, I do Sinhuat with 2 Dons. I Sinhuat with Don Teresa Haidong, and as well as Don TDV, Từ Đạo Viet, aka Từ Đạo Việt Nam, kind of thing. And over in the East Coast with Linda Damisavio, I've been kind of drafted by Don Andre Chong for personal reasons. So I'm kind of connected with both Lindons, kind of, and I've been seeing how things are working. And so anybody who's not from, Lindon Tanya or Lindon Damisavio, I apologize, but hopefully this stuff kind of translate for you as well. I just want to make sure that, as I am a guest speaker for these 2 Lindons, I want to tailor this experience for those 2 in particular. And then if there are any questions for anybody who's outside those 2 regions, feel free to ask questions. I know there is a survey link that was sent out. Feel free to use the chat boxes as well. I have multiple devices set up, so I am looking at the chat box. I don't know if it's the same one though. It's the I don't know if that's the right chat box. But anyways, we'll start off with a game. So this game is we did it for whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, there we go. So this game is a scavenger hunt. And so I stole this game from my Dai Hoi Nguyen Song it was an activity we did for các em ngàn ấu nhì. But I wanted to do multiple rounds of this game to kind of show you how you can kind of change it up for ngàn ấu versus ngàn thiếu versus ngàn nghĩa, and possibly hip C. Am I sharing my screen? No, I'm not. I don't see the red screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the goal is this. Unheal and Unta, can you watch the everybody who's going to play? You're going to need to whatchamacallit. Actually, let me do it like this. Socrates, can you run the game for me real quick? It's the first couple slides on the slideshow, so I can kind of like because once I go blank, I can't see the video chat anymore. So,
yeah. So do you want me to share?
Yeah, share the screen. Start on slide 2, and then yeah, start on slide 2.
All right, give me a second.
Thank you. All right, so pretty much this game is pretty easy. On the screen is going to be an item that's going to be flashed, and your job is to find that item in your house. Okay, and once you find that object, you want to show me in the video camera. Okay, so if you go present mode, Socrates. Perfect. And then let's start this game off. So let's go to, go slide 3. There you go. So a picture of your children. So you're gonna go around, find it. I have my stuff ready. I'm just looking to see if you guys have anything. A picture of your children. Now, a children means either your kids, like your biological kids, or your Toonie kids, or kids in general. Okay, so do you have anything of that sort? Okay, so there you go. I see Unhugh with a panoramic picture of his Dawn. Merry Christmas card from Auntie A. Thank you. I can't really see anything else. All right, for me, I have this T-shirt with some Toonie kids on it. There you go. So, all right, awesome. And so, if you look at the bottom, Matthew 15, line 22, that's a line from the actual Bible reading for this week. And it says, "And behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, 'Have pity on me, Lord, son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon.'" And so our job as hunjungs, or some of us parents, is to always protect our kids and make sure we bring them closer to God and away from the demons, okay? So thank you. All right, so let's go. Next one. Next slide. A picture of your pet. It could be either a real life animal. It could be a stuffed animal. Let me show you my pet bear. So here's mine. Do you have a pet? Yeah. Oh, Auntie A showing off his, all right, there you go. His infamous shrimp farm. All right, thank you. I can only see like 2 people. I can't really see any other stuff. But that's a little hard one. All right, so Matthew 15, line 27, again from this Sunday's gospel reading, says, "She said, 'Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters.'" And so, very good. All right, so those 2 were kind of like examples for Oni, because I gave them exactly what I was looking for. And then I left the Bible verse on the bottom to kind of like bring it to life. The next 2 I have is going to be kind of like non-teal level, okay? So next slide, please. Something for your altar. What can you offer to your altar? Like, what is something that you can bring up to your altar? For example, I have a very special BEYM candle. Not lit yet, waiting for the Spirit to light it. So what do you have that you can offer up to the Lord at the altar, at your altar, at home? Ahil, is that a Bible? I see a Bible. I think it's a Bible. That's the New Testament. Auntie A has a book, the Daily Gospel. All right, thank you. Very nice. I wonder if I can see other people's cameras. I don't want to keep looking at Auntie A the whole time. All right, here we go.
James, I think they don't have their cameras turned on.
They don't have the cameras turned on. Okay, I hope you're playing at home for fun though. Okay. Anyways, moving on. We got a couple more. Next one, an item from a foreign land. Oh, item from a foreign land. Foreign land could be kind of, doesn't really mean like you have to go to another country, but like at least you're out of your home area. And here, what is that? Is that an urn? A sake bottle? That looks like cool artwork though. All I had to show was my little ninja from Japan. But Anhil like showed me up with some big old bottle. What is that, Anhil?
It's like a vase. It's like one of those vases that for like Korean or Japanese vase or something like that. I think it's Japanese. Let's see. No, maybe it's Chinese. I don't know. Wang Ceramic Industry.
Where did you get it from?
A gift. Someone gave it to me out of
Okay.
this country.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. And then so this is until like a foreign item and like something for the altar. It doesn't really tell Am like what you really want them to get. But the thing is like it makes them think a little bit to kind of go grab something that could fit in this description. And so that higher level thinking is something that Until is able to do. If you had something like if you asked the same two questions, get an item from a foreign land, or the previous one was what was the previous one? Something for your altar. The Onis might actually go to the altar and take something off the altar, and then might send their parents into like some kind of shop. And so this way, like you have to kind of put your mindset in like in their shoes. Like what would actually an Oni actually go get? And so you would have to be a little bit more direct with Oni. You can be a little bit more like make them until think a little bit more. But then this one, the next one we're going to look at is a Nyisi or Nyisi or Hipsi level. So a gift or calling from God. So what do you have that is a gift or a calling from God? Oh yes, I'm here. You read my mind. I had the same thing. Our kanhunja, right? And so for us, most of the time, like what we're looking at is all 7 slides, all these 7 slides, everything that they have in common is they came from the readings from this Sunday. And so I was looking at I tried to focus at just the gospel. And the gospel, it was kind of hard to pick out because I didn't want to do demon. I didn't want to do like certain things. And so it was kind of difficult. And as I needed more, I expanded by looking at the first and second readings. And so when you look at all the previous 7 slides, which I'll share these slides with you after the presentation, or Until already has the link, so you can share that link after the presentation. All the 7 Bible verses that you see underneath the clues for the item, what they are is actual Bible verses from this week's reading. So first, second, third, or first, second in the gospel. And that's where I pulled all this from, and I try to tweak it a little bit. Easy games that we could do here, low effort, reading the gospel before Tuni, trying to carry out what kind of items you would need. And then as a Hunchung, you want to be able to show and tell as well. And so with an O and Until and Yesi, even Hipsi, all like going and doing a scavenger hunt is actually an icebreaker as well. Breaking the ice, show and tell. Like I didn't know Anhil got like a cool vase, but he didn't buy it. He got it as a gift from a friend. And so those items like is kind of like an easy thing to kind of talk about to kind of break the ice. And I think a lot of times for us as Huinches, I think one of the concerns that was brought up by Lin or Tanyao to discuss today is like, how do you talk? Like, how do you keep that same communication between like you and the screen? But then like you have to understand that right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 19, 24 people that I'm talking to. You have to just put that mindset into your heart. Like, I am not talking to my computer. I am talking to the 24 people who called on for this lesson. And so I'm serving these 24 people. And so you have to put your mindset in it. It's all about the mindset. Because if you think it's awkward to talk to a screen, think about people on YouTube who vlog for a living and they're talking to a camera. At least I know that there's somebody on this other screen, on the other line right now, listening and trying to digest this content for they could use this for their online Sinhua coming up in the fall. And so for me, it's like that bond and that connection, right? And so that's why when I was preparing this lesson, I was like, well, obviously, I'm a Lindong Wonsong boy at heart, born. Not born there. I was born in now, but raised in Wonsong, then left the nest, fly to the Bay Area, was adopted by Linda and Tanya. They put me to work. They fed me. They let me into their house. They do all this stuff, right? And then I chased my heart to Linda and Tanya, Linda and Diamond Savio, which eventually, I'll be here for a very long time, and stuff like that. And I had to make the connection here too. And so when we prepare a lesson for us. For you, it might be easy because it's your Duan. It's your kids that you know. But for me, when I'm preparing this lesson, I have to make that connection. And so what you're going to see through a theme throughout this entire lesson is, yes, a lot of areas of America is still locked down. There's still shelter in place in San Jose, the strictest I've seen. And people I know that I grew up, I have been hanging out with for the past 2 years, haven't left their house in a long time, only to go do the most essential stuff. Yet here in Virginia, people are able to freely go to restaurants. Their masks are still required. The church that Andre Jung that drafted me, their church allows 350 people in mass, which is crazy because down in Orange County, every mass is outdoors. So every area we look at, we're all facing a different set of rules, a game board. And what I want, for what I've kind of come to realize is, even though I can't see my Hip C kids at TDV, we have that connection where we can still communicate with each other. We still learn from each other, and we have that process. Why? Because we set that relationship down already. We have that bond that's already set. Okay. Socrates, next slide. If anything, it'd probably be easier if you just kind of run the slides for me. So what I'm gonna go through is I'm gonna go through and kind of like highlight some of the things that things at dorms that I've been a part of during these past past 5 months, what I've seen. So my home dorm Tangtian in Westminster, California. At first, once they took 1 week off. Once the whole thing COVID hit, they took 1 week off and they decided to create a Google calendar spreadsheet, and they had groups of Huinchens, like friends. It doesn't even matter what gut or ngan you sin in. You want to do something with your friends and you want to do that for Tuni. We went live. They went Facebook Live. Eight weeks of like planned stuff. Some and things included a puppet show. Or every week they had weekly gospel. They had a puppet show. 1 week, one of our creative Huinchens decided to do a Hanjutin via Zoom and using the software OSB or something like that, where he had a green screen and it was like this total crazy thing. Put all of us to shame. Pretty good. We played to each other's talents. Other Huinchens, sometimes they just got on the piano, they played some praise and worship songs, and they did their thing. We had a trivia game show where kids were able to text in their number or their answers to a random Google number, and they were keeping track of which one had high participation. And then for enjoyment, they had an eating contest and they shaved the Huinchen's hair off for the views. All of which, sometimes some things kind of went away, and it wasn't really things that we would really do at Tunin. But those things to kind of get kids to kind of get their minds off certain things. After 8 weeks of Zoom, they transitioned, or after 8 weeks of Facebook Live, they decided to switch to Zoom. Because Facebook Live, what they were seeing is that it was only the same kids who were watching live. They weren't getting the high viewership that they wanted. So they thought hey, maybe we should start personalizing the information and going by ngan level. So they transitioned to that. They had a camp plan, but then COVID, so they canceled it. But then Gan O decided that instead of just canceling camp altogether, he decided him and his Huinchens created a packet, an Oni camp packet. And that packet included things like coloring pages, Morse and semaphore worksheets, crossword puzzles, things for the kids to kind of get. And so they printed it out, they stapled it together. Then the Huinchens went to the park by the church. They sat there, they called the parents, and then the parents came, drove by, picked up the packet, and then left. And so the kids were able to have something for that weekend to do at home. And at the end of the year, the ending Banchapan, they ended their term and they wanted to do something. And so they had a socially distanced luau. For that dorm in particular, across their church is a big city park where it had a lot of space for the kids to kind of socially distance. Some people who were that's not really social distancing, but to see the kids kind of come together after 3 months locked up in their houses and not seeing their friends, it was really heartwarming to kind of see what Tuni is and how much Tuni means to them. Because even though they couldn't sit home for 3 months, they still came to this luau, and when they saw their other friends, they're smiling through their masks, enjoying their time and eating egg rolls and dumplings and stuff like that. And then they went home. And so that was very touching to me, just knowing that online Sinhua will never replace in-person Sinhua. But we have to continue to do something to minister to our kids. And so that's what that Dawn did. Moving on to the next Dawn. To Lindon Wasam. For Lindon Dam Savio, Lindon Tanya, if you guys saw our virtual Dai Hoi, it was pretty jam-packed with stuff, right? On Friday, we had adoration and praise and worship. On Saturday, we had the entire morning, an hour block for each ngan to do Sinhuat. And then like late afternoon, we had a trivia session for các Hun trưởng. And then at night we had each Duan, we highlight each Duan made a video. Usually we have in-person live bungay, but because COVID, we had to get creative. So all the tech people were able to create videos on the theme of strength, which was our theme for the year. And they were able to do that, and we played those, and it kind of got that sense of Lindon unity, and we ended it with Mass on Sunday. And so it may not have been, our typical 2,000 people camping trip that we usually have, but we were able to get like between 60 and 80 kids per ngan on at a time. And that's pulling from 14 Duans. And so when those kids came on, some things like we did, like Ngan had a rotating Hanjilik theme where they kind of clicked on different Zoom links and they had different activities, and we set it up where each Duan will compete with another Duan every time. Whereas Ngantil had a guest speaker video. We had Jat Tom, who's the Jatuni Ngantil. We asked him to make a video for Ngantil. So they had that, and they played the Kahoot. Ngan did Kahoot challenges, and then we also did the Scavenger Hunt. We all gave prizes of like gift cards, like $10 gift cards to Target, to Deck AM. We just buy it from the Lindor level. We ship it to the Nganjung at that dawn, and then they distribute it to the kids who won the contest. With the older kids, we tried to do like pre-Dai competition. So we had like an art competition. We had Hipsy had a League of Legends tournament. We had we had the marble challenge with if you look at the marble kind of like chain reaction, that was pretty cool. We only got one submission on that one, but we were trying to hit a big range of kids. It's because not all kids play League of Legends. Not all kids like to dance on TikTok. Now that TikTok's kind of banned, so we got to find a new way, maybe bring back Vine, but stuff like that. And so that was our Dai Hoi myself. Next slide. What I've seen through the TDV Hunjung page is that Gantil and Ngania in Linda Tanya had their virtual Sinhuat. I know that from Linda Tanya they had not Linda Tanya. On TDV had like 10 kids from Gantil call on to the virtual Sinhuat according to our Ganjung. It was fun. I didn't really hear anything about Nisi meet and greet, but anybody from Linda Tanya want to give us what happened during these two events to kind of share with everybody, kind of like humble brag.
Hi, this is Even Nganye for Lindon Tanya's Tao. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So for this event, we had a meet and greet at the beginning. So we had a formal overall introduction of everyone, all the Ngesi and all the Hunchuns. Then after that, we broke them up into groups. So breakout rooms of 2 Hunchuns and about 4 to 6 Ngesis where they play icebreaker games for about 30 minutes. And then after that, we went back to the main room and then we played a Ngesi trivia game. That was kind of based off what everyone every Don that participated, what they learned throughout the last 2 years. And we played that game, and I think we got positive feedback overall with the kids. They seemed to have fun and got to know more other Ngesi from other Dons. We also had ADL Hawaii, which was pretty cool that we got to meet some of them. And that's it. Thank you.
How many kids called on Tao?
We had about, I'm gonna have to look it up, but I believe we had I want to say 20 kids and about 10 Hunchuns.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's all about connection, right? Our kids are at home. They've been doing that distant learning stuff. It is fun to just meet somebody in a safe environment and setting this up. I know that the Dawn in Hawaii, great group of people I met when I went over there for training. But it's so hard for them because they're practically separated from the rest of Little Tanya by an ocean. And so being able to have online events where the kids can kind of call on like, oh man, like our Lindor is bigger than just the San Jose area, Sacramento, and like the Central Valley. We have Hawaii too. Like how many people can kind of say like, oh dude, we have Hawaii in our Lindor. And so things like that, like it brings people in and like things that usually are like people who are usually isolated and can't come over all the time because of cost and time, like this is a great way to kind of neutralize that. So looking at the positives in a time of like craziness. All right, thank you. Next on, moving on to the Don who first adopted me when I moved up, Don Teresa High Don San Jose. They moved to online Sinhua via Zoom. They had a Ball Hua 10 campaign, which was kind of led by Ngan Hip C. Ngan Hip C kind of came up with what they were going to focus on for that week. The kids were able to input their numbers in via a Google form, and then the Hip Cs were supposed to calculate and tabulate and kind of find the average. They made it into a competition, and then yeah, they announced it. I think the winners gets like an ice cream party or something once they come back. They hosted a couple online masses where some of the Hunjins and kids would come to the church. They will have a choir. Their Jad will do a private mass. They have a private Zoom link, and so it kind of connected all the families together, which I thought was pretty cool. They have a pretty young Jad now who's like trying to learn Tunyi, and so keeping him in the loop is also, I thought, was kind of cool. The Nyisis, under Unmin's leadership, created a at Disciple Buds on IG. And so their goal, if you didn't see their post, Unmin's post on the Hunjin network yet, their goal is to kind of like, it's a Nisi-led project, Instagram account that kind of talks about, brings up things like mental health and things like that. I think yesterday they posted something about you are special, and kind of like that constant reminder that you, that individual, is special, because sometimes we don't hear it enough. And if it scrolls on your Instagram screen and you see it, yeah, it may be like generic, but somebody somewhere might need that message. And those kids over at THD are doing a pretty cool job on their Instagram account. So if you want to give them a follow and you want to see some positive vibes on your timeline, Disciple Buds on IG. That's a Nisi Ran project from THD. So good job, THD. Moving on to TDV, where I've been spending the last year getting put to work by TA and Jing'an. This one, what they've done is they went a very it's either a Ngan or Jidan level approach. So if a Jidan or a Ngan wanted the Sinhua and stuff like that, they were given the okay. So for me, I work with Hip C over at TDV. My Ngan that wanted to do rosaries, Rosary Friday. So we kind of talked to the kids. We set up a day like, hey, what time would be good for you guys to do the rosary? The kids chose the time. We called on. We did the rosary together. We just kind of joked around before and after the rosary, and then done. We kind of went over the importance of the rosary. For Hip C, the cup I watch over. I'll show you my schedule in a bit, but Hip C cup mo, Yisi cup ba. From my understanding, were the two cups who Sinhua with their kids frequently. Oni Cup High had bi-weekly check-in with their kids as well, and so. I don't want to talk too much about my cup yet, because I'll talk about them more later. But Ngisi Cup Bab, she had her kids create Kahoots, and then they played it with their other kids. So instead of like Hunter's always creating games, like the kids are just as creative, and they know Kahoot because they play with it in school. It's not some new program that Tuni found, right? Like Tuni took Kahoot from educators who are teachers. They brought it to Tuni, and they're like, oh, this is so amazing. So the kids know Kahoot. Now, if you flip it for the older kids, you can make them run the games. You can make them create like trivia. Obviously, the Hunter should preview the game first before you play it. But some of the games we just looked at was pretty funny from the Nisi Cup Back kids. Oni Cup High, they kind of had like songs and like some arts and craft, I believe, and stuff like that. So that's TDV, my current Don for now. And then moving on, I think I have like Don Andre Jung over here in Chantilly, Virginia. They started to Sinhua online with just Hip C. They had weekly gospel. They followed the Hip C curriculum. Their Jidan Jung had a lot of like engaging games that I kind of stole and used in the town hall meeting. However, because of their dynamics here with the Vietnamese community, they were kind of asked to stop by Jasu. But now, because things are kind of opening up in Virginia, they're planning to Sinhua in person in September. Obviously, with like lower numbers, I think like the classrooms, they can only hold like 12 people maximum per classroom. So that's like 1 or 2 Hunjos plus 10 kids per room. And so obviously, like Tell De Phương, it's going to follow that. Okay, so it's kind of hard for me to kind of like say what to do. And so So if you want to see what they're doing, you can reach out to Teresa Judd, who is the Don Jung over at Don Andre Chung. And online Sinhua is not an option. And I was kind of eavesdropping in a conversation between the Don Jung and the Jia. And Jia was like, the kids go to school online Monday through Friday. Why do we need to like have them Sinhua online when we kind of do it outside, kind of thing, and kind of give them something new, a new routine? If the parents want it, then we should kind of provide it. So then right now, they are currently in the process of registration to see how many kids they have, and then whether to Sinhua indoors. They also have a gigantic field outside, which is like kind of crazy. When it's not humid, I think it'd be a pretty good idea to Sinhua outside anyways. So that's Don Andre Chung and Chantilly, and then I think that's it. Moving on. Actually, before I go on to this expectations versus reality, is there any questions on like what I've seen or there's anything that was brought up that you kind of want more information on? Checking the conversation over here. It's looking for new messages. I just see a lot of new people signing on. Okay. So again, if you have questions, feel free to type it into the chat box. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I'll try to slow it down. If you need me to speak in Vietnamese, em xin bên Mỹ thì tiếng Việt của em có hơi yếu, so I'll try my best. Okay, I'll try my best. Anyways, let's get into the nuts and bolts of online Sinhua. Expectations versus reality. Now, what I have listed on the screen right here is all the expectations that some people may have if they never Sinhua online before. They think that online Sinhua is going to be the same as in-person Sinhua. And no, it's not. 100% will not. It's not the same because there's something about human interaction. Even if there's that quiet kid, when he's in, like when he or she is in person, you see that kid and you see that kid kind of quiet. And then it's kind of easier to kind of like talk to that kid when the whole group is kind of running away and to another room or to another area of the park. It's easy for you to just come up and like, hey, everything cool? And they're like, and then that's it. But it's kind of hard for you to do that online because like, otherwise you can send him or her a message on the side like, hey, you good? But sometimes online, like you kind of forget who's online. And so, and honestly, like that human interaction, that human touch, that human like that connection, person to person, is like unmatched, no matter what anybody says. That's like saying that Ruk Lei Ting Ling is the same as receiving the Eucharist in person. It's not. It's not. And so, with that mindset, you have to understand that things are going to be a little bit different. And so, it's going to be a lot more work on our end to make that connection online. Same number of kids will call on. My brother was in Zheng for Until down in Orange County. I asked them, hey man, how come you're not doing more Zoom calls with Until kids? And he looked at me straight in the eye. I was like, bro, you know how many kids call on? And I was like, I don't know, 20? He's like, I wish I get 10. And then it's like you see him, he's obviously like distraught, like not distraught, but like kind of like down in the dumps because his gut is already like 30 kids. His whole line is like 100 kids. And like he only had like 10 kids call on. It was defeating. They spent time on Friday calling every single kid like, hey, this is going to be online Sinhua. Like, tell your parents, check their email, or let me have your email. And like they called and all they got was 10. And he felt defeated. And I was like, bro, you can't get down on the dumps because what about those 10 other kids who called on? Those 10 kids who still have Tuni close to their heart. Those 10 kids who called on for an interesting time to meet. And then when they see you defeated, what's going to have them call on next week, right? And so my brother we had that heart to heart, and he kind of started crying. And then I was like, bro, it's okay. And he's like, he's like, and then he felt like he let his kids down. And I was like, it's totally fine during this time period, but you have to understand that you have a responsibility as Until to continue to provide support for Kek M Tuni, either live instruction or something on Facebook or Instagram, like something for the kids to be doing. So that's that. Motivation for Winchers will be the same. it's hard. Like, if I was a Don Jung right now, I'd probably be like, that's the hardest job right now. Being in the Lindon position, we're here for support. But the Don Jungs and Banchapan Don, they're the ones who are like the boots on the ground. And I have much respect for everybody who has a white jaw right now, whether that be Don Jung, Ngan Jung, or Ji Don Jung. Everybody has such an important role to connect with your kids. But life happens. COVID happened. I'm supposed to get married next week. That is not happening, right? And so there are a lot of things that are going in on somebody's life that we may not know about. And just because a Huincheng doesn't feel like motivated or wants to do something online, that's not to say that they're a bad Huincheng or they don't care about their kids. Like for us, we have to take a step back and be like, I wonder what's going on with this person. Like, I wonder if they're okay. And we have to check in on our Huinchengs now more than ever, rather than like, this person's so lazy, doesn't want to do anything, like doesn't want to help us out with anything. But because they might be going through something, they might have lost their job, they might be failed a class because they went home and like now they have to do all this chores for their parents and they don't have time for homework, and they're trying to like balance their parents and college life, and it's kind of difficult, you know. So the motivation for Huincheng is different, and I think a lot of times we don't spend enough time as a Banchapan to think about what does our Huinchengs need. We always worry about our kids. We put our kids first all the time. But in a leadership position, we have to understand that we need to take care of our brothers and sisters who we serve with all the time. Because if we don't check in on them, they might not come back to Tuni after this pandemic. And so I want to make sure that I hit this part too, that Huinchengs needs to be checked up on. This is a good time to have meetings, more frequent meetings. Maybe not on the weekends, maybe on a Tuesday night when no one has anything better to do, right? Now that the Warriors don't have any basketball to play, or the Sharks aren't playing, you know, and the Capitals are down 0-2. And so all this time with all these other things that we would have been doing, they don't have anything to do. So now would be a good time to have meetings. Now would be a good time to have more training. You know, Dawn happy hour with your favorite juice box. Stuff like that would be a good time right now. And obviously, online Sinhua would be easier. Let me tell you, online Sinhua is a lot harder because when I see that red light on, I have to know what I say is going to be shared with people, and I might get in trouble. So I have to make sure everything I do and everything I prepare has to be correct as best as I can, because I have to put best foot forward. When you're live and you're in person, people make mistakes all the time. It's not caught on camera. Kids were like, oh, I don't remember. But like the more people who see these, the more we go online, the more we have to think about things needs to be perfect. And stuff like that, like pre-recorded stuff. If you're doing live stuff with not recorded, it's kind of similar, but I think online Sinhua is a lot harder because it takes more work. Like, think about, you can explain something and it can take you forever, and you might think that's a lot of work, but it's harder to condense something in a very short time period to deliver. Like condensing things to deliver, that's harder than to just explain things like long-winded. You ever listen to Auntie try to explain how to tie a shoe? Takes forever, right? It's not because he's going into a lot of details. It's just because he goes in circles all the time, right? And he just fills up time. And so yeah, online Sinhua a lot more difficult because once I see the numbers start dropping, then I know people are getting bored and then all this other stuff. Okay, so I'll stop here for any questions about expectations versus reality. I also have time at the end. I kind of put a Q&A slide at the end if you have questions there. But is there anything that you kind of want to talk about in terms of like expectation versus reality before I go into like kind of structuring Sinhua? Is there anything on that Google slide or anything? Everybody, so. Oh, hi, Tristan. Tristan from Westminster, California. Any questions? Okay. All right. So look, I'm here for if you have questions. Oh yeah, thank you, Anhil. Okay. So feel free to stop me at any time. Like if you have questions and said something that kind of like intrigues you, you want me to go off on that tangent, I'll go on that tangent. I just want to make sure that for me, I'm not so rigid, like structured in my thing. Like if you want to guide this conversation to another area, I can help you with that. Okay, because remember, I'm trying to tailor this to you to make sure that you leave today feeling more comfortable setting up online Xinhua or feeling a little bit more inspired to do online Xinhua. So we do have a Q&A session at the end, but if you have questions during here, that's fine too. It kind of gives me a break as well. Okay, if nothing. All right, let's go. Moving on. All right. So as a Huincheng, from our training, we know that a Huincheng in a specific ngan holds different like relationship with you and your kids. For example, as a Huincheng in an ao, you are the teacher. You are kind of like a parent figure. You are supposed to teach them what is right and what is wrong. You're supposed to teach them what is correct because they are a sponge. And whatever you tell them, they will soak it in and they will remember it. And when you teach them wrong and they go to Ngania and they have that wrong foundation, now that Huincheng Ngania, who's supposed to be that big brother, is going to be like whoa, this is kind of like backwards. That's not how you read Kingmeng, or that's not the right King Young Ngai, right? And so, and then on Hipsi, I'm more of a mentor, where like I'm older, a lot older than them. I've graduated college. I have a job, a career, and so they look to me as a mentor to show them what's life going to be like post high school. But to get to that point, like an O will give you that respect because you have that kind. Until will start to challenge you, like by if you don't give them specific rules, they'll find ways to cheat around games. Now, C, they're at that point where they think they know it all. And on Hip C is ready to just like treat me like an adult, treat me as an equal. And so when you think about it, as a Huincheng, you have to, at this point in online Xinhua, is you have to build that relationship with the kids. I don't try to come off with my Hip C kids and like I know it all. I put myself out there as a resource for them. I try to set it up where they feel comfortable by asking me questions about morality questions, questions about hot topic issues. Like we talked about things like the George Floyd death. We talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. We talked about, what is appropriate to wear to church and what's not appropriate to wear to church and why. Why is Asian people more, or Vietnamese people more like, strict with their dress code than when you go to American Mass? And we have those conversations. And I tell them from the beginning that I'm not perfect and I make mistakes. And they understand that. And they kind of see that in themselves too. And so you have to understand that relationship is key. On paper at TDV, I have 14, 15 kids who are registered to go to TDV Hip Sikap Mall. On average, in person, I get like 10 or 11 kids weekly. Online, I get 6 to 8. On good days, I get 8. On average, I get 6. And those kids who keep coming back every week, I have a really good relationship with them. They know what's going on in my life. They know where in the world is I'm James right now. They kind of understand, like what I'm going through with my postponing my marriage. They understand, and I understand what they're going through. Struggles in school, like having to log on and deal with all that, online schooling. And we go back and forth and we build that relationship. That relationship takes time because obviously I come in to TDV at the beginning of last school year in September. I barely meet them. I have to build that relationship with them. And that relationship I have with those 8 kids right now, as I was preparing this lesson last night and I was kind of like finalizing some of the stuff, like I was like, dude, I remember my kids. I haven't talked to them in like 3 weeks. So I sent them a text message through our Hip Sikap Mo chat group. And I said, hey, I'm preparing a lesson for, Lino Tanya and Lino Dam Savio. And I was going to talk about you guys. And I just want to tell you guys that I miss you guys. And I hope you guys are all doing well, right? And just a text message like that, and then like it got a bunch of heart emojis, and they're like, we miss you too, on James. I hope you're doing well, and all that stuff. And it kind of like, made me like remember why I do stuff. I do stuff for those kids, and so it's a privilege to be a Huincheng, not just like a Huinle Bin who like just goes out and just teaches other Huinchengs and don't Xinhua at Dawn. Like Xinhua at Dawn makes me feel young. Xinhua at Dawn allows me to understand the struggles that other Huinchengs feel. And so That's why I feel like, you know, the higher you go up, that doesn't mean you stop Sin Hua at Dawn. Like you do your best as much as you can. Even back in Orange County, I still try to like show up to Toonie when I can, go to events when I can, and then be a mentor and trying to like help the kids I used to teach. Even though I don't teach the other kids, the new kids, I still try to mentor the Hunchings who I taught when they were like 2 and stuff like that. So the relationship is key. All right, moving on. So, online Sin Hua rules and tips. Now, when I Sin Hua, consistency is key. Like when you don't have consistency, that's when things are going to go wild. When my Duan Chang Tien did Sin Hua on Facebook Live, Facebook Live, they had a system. Once they shifted to Zoom and the numbers and the same feeling wasn't there, they canceled Toonie out of nowhere one week. Like they canceled it like an hour before Sin Hua, like, oh sorry, no Toonie today. And like it messed things up, it messed up the flow. Kids want to look forward to Sin Hua. And so when you have a consistency, if you're going to use Zoom, if you're going to use like Facebook Live, if you're going to use Microsoft Teams, whatever system, whatever schedule you're going to have, stay consistent with it. Because once you stop being consistent, then you as a Huncheng or you as an organizing committee is going to have a real struggle. So consistency is key. Number 2, with my Hipsy kids, I require kids to have their cameras on at all times. That way, like it kind of helps break that tension of like I'm only talking to like blank screen. Like when I see their faces and I see when like I say something like when I joke about something or I say something corny or cheesy and make my dad jokes and like some of the kids like smirk but they don't laugh, but I see them smirk, I'm like I got him. And so it makes me like kind of go on. And so that face-to-face interaction is so key. If you want your kids to wear uniform, that's up to you. When I taught online from March to June, I wore uniform all the time. The kids, you know, I just let them wear whatever they want. But at least when they saw me and they saw me in uniform, they're like, wow, I'm James, so official. And then when I'll stand up and go get something in the other corner of my room, they're like, oh, I'm James wearing shorts, or they're like, that's some funny stuff. And so they're like, Auntie or not approved or whatever. And so they'll just like, we'll just joke about it. Like, yo, at least when I'm sitting, I look official, right? And then they're like, we get it, James, we get it. So like, you want to come up with those norms. So if you want to set that off, it's kind of hard to set that mid-year. So for those who are planning on like, you know, what you're going to do with Toonie this year, if that's what you want, then do it. Like start it from the beginning. But don't be like, oh, today you wear uniform, make sure you wear uniform. Oh, next week, nah, that's okay. It's not okay. And then whatever you expect the kids to do, you should do it yourself. Okay. So that one, I'm kind of torn on that one. Like right now, like if you follow me on Instagram, like I have like my official, like not official, but like I have my Toonie shorts on or whatever. I want to wear it outside, but you know it'll get hot in this house if I put on pants. But yes. And then think about how kids can be active participants during Sin Hua. So it's not always like one directional. That's why I stop so much and ask if there's any questions, because when it's one directional, that's when things kind of get like redundant and like you start to listen to your voice and you start to critique like, oh man, I need to inflectuate a little bit better. At least like when there's like some kind of conversation, that's why I look at the chat box and I kind of like when kids are trolling in the chat box, I'm okay with it because I can ignore it. But then, like, if it gets too wild, I'm like, hey, stop messing around in the chat box. And they're like, oh, I'm James looking. And so then that way, like, I kind of have, like, I'm looking at this PowerPoint, I'm looking at the screens, I look at everything, keeping my mind, like, engaged. So let's look at, like, so think about ways kids can stay engaged. I'll share tips in a bit. Okay, so let's go to the next one. All right, so the foundation. The school year is about to start. Some of us will start sooner than later, but I think setting up this system is important. Registration protocol. You should still register kids, whether that be online registration, like on Andre Zhang, they have a Google form where they collect the parents' names, emails, phone number. I don't think they collect addresses, and they collect the kids' names, and then the kids' birthday, so they know what cup to put them in. You want to register so that at least you know when you start the year off, you know how many kids am I going to send out by ngan, am I going to send out by cup, or worst case scenario, will I send by Dawn, right? And so each one of them has its own pros and cons. I'm not saying that you should always go with cup, right? You should want to mix it up with non-events cup and then like more weekly cup, and then obviously Dawn at the bigger level, like Dawn masses, adoration, you know, or like trunk or treat or whatever you're gonna do. But you want to be able to, the smaller the group, I actually think the smaller the group, the better. The smaller the group allows a Huinzheng or Huinzhengs in that cup to bond with the kids. The smaller the group, an only cup mode is not the same as an only cup back. A tuning cup high and a tuning cup back, not the same. Hipsy cup mode, Hipsy cup high, completely different. And that's why when cup high, Hipsy asks me, hey, can we send her a cup mode today? I usually tend to say no, because my kids and those kids are in different wavelengths. Those Hipsy cup high kids, they might be like checked out with Tuning. My kids, they're still locked into Tuning at least for 2 more years by their parents. And so when I can avoid Sinhuan together as much as possible, that's fine. Praying the rosary together as a gun, I do that. But like when I'm teaching a lesson, I'd rather have them, the cup high kids, by themselves with their own Huinzheng. And so that the registration process for me is important because we know the numbers. 2, we can start breaking Huinzhengs up by number of kids. And then also during the registration process, a lot of times we think about all we're doing is taking in information. But this is a good time for Huinzhengs or Matchup Handuan to give information to the Fuhuin. How are we Sinhuating? How often are we Sinhuating? How long are we Sinhuating? Who are the Huinzhengs who's going to be teaching my kids? How are we teaching our kids? And so a lot of times we usually just have people sign up, but we don't really share information with the Fuhuin right away. So having an online flyer, having a Google sheet, a Google Doc, where we can share view only to show the protocols and things that we're doing for the Fuhuin, or even like, as we get down to number 3 in a bit, Junqi Sinhua. All those things are things that parents wants to know during this pandemic. And a lot of times, Huinzhengs, they don't provide this information. So the registration, we have to think about it 2 ways. We are collecting information. Are we giving information back to the parents? Are we giving them a contact email? Are we giving them ways to communicate with us? Are we allowing them to join our email groups? And so that is a very big thing. And a lot of people, even though, look, if you don't charge them, it's hard, right? Because a lot of things are free. But look, just because if you don't collect money, that doesn't mean you don't collect information. And you still need information. People in Lindon, yeah, y'all in Silicon Valley, you guys take information all the time. Google, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, all y'all take information anyways. So same thing with 2Need. Take that information because you need that information to plan for stuff. Okay? Email groups. My Dawn in Orange County, we never had a Fuhuin email group. The Dawn in TDV, they have an extensive email group to a point where like they kind of joke around with each other when somebody sends an inappropriate, like not inappropriate, but an email that could be taken inappropriately. Like, hey, if you have any beer bottles, empty beer bottles, please bring it to me. And like, you know, it's for a game. But like you could read it and take it in the wrong way. But the email group is going to be huge because you think that Ngangia and Hipsi will be the easiest to get on. And Till is the hardest to get online. Let me tell you that if you have an email group, that is a complete lie. If you have the email groups for Oni and Tunyin and you send that link to the parents will turn that on for their kids so that they go to Sinhua and they can go do like laundry and cook dinner or whatever in the kitchen. They will turn that on for their kids immediately, given the links, right? So if you have that email group, you could push that information either. You secure that Zoom link or this Microsoft Teams link. You just shoot it out to the email group. And like, here you go. Rather than putting that email link or the Zoom link on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or wherever you're using social media, and you click on it, anybody can click on it. But if you have the email group, you can use it for communication. You can use it to, again, share those links and have that constant communication. And talking to Dawn St. Barbara, who's one of the biggest Dawns in Nungwasao, they have a high Oni and Tuni participation rate because the email communication with their Fuhuin. So if you're thinking about how can I get kids online, establish an email group. If you don't have it, this is the time to do it. And you can use this and then continue to build upon it, right? And because the more information you push out, the more benefits you can have down the road. I hate it when I was going to, I hate asking for money, right? But think about if we had an email group, we get them all this information, and then like out of 50 emails, there's one that's like talking about a fundraiser. Think about the ways you kind of work this way into your favor, right? So the email group, as much as some people hate email, let me tell you, email is how we communicate at work, right? And so you have to use it. And like today's parents are not the same as my parents. My parents today even have email. Like when I was going to school, they didn't have email. Now they know how to use email. My mom knows how to use Facebook. My mom knows how to Facebook stalk me on Facebook. It's crazy what my parents can do now, right? And so don't limit our parents' like knowledge. They know what to do online now. So you do that for them, okay? 就近生活, big thing. Like even though times are tough, or you have to start planning. If you don't plan, you're going to be overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, what's the thing that's going to happen first? You're going to burn out, and then you're not going to do anything. Being properly prepared at a dorm level, like the 军学生活, as well as 军学探店, from the gut and ngan, is important because it sets a mentality like, these are the days that we're going to send hard. These are the days that I'm responsible for a lesson. These are the days that I'm expected to be on and teaching, right? Rather than like, hey, can you teach today? And like, oh, but I'm not ready. Because the more prepared you are, the kids will understand like, dude, I'm James, Mary, Teresa, I'm TA, I'm Hugh. They put so much time into this online lesson to make me feel special during this TV time. Versus, I'm telling you, hipsy kids, they could tell when you're not prepared for a lesson. And when you're not prepared for a lesson, or when things aren't fun, the kids won't call on. The hipsy kids will not call on because their parents won't force them on. You want them to get to a point where the kids want to be on rather than being forced to be on. And how do you do that? By being prepared. You have to be prepared. And if you're not prepared, it's going to be bad. Okay, so you want to start preparing. Questions. It's a lot of information, I know, but I think the biggest thing is we have to prepare ourselves. So I think some dorms are only preparing like a semester, like from September until like Christmas, and then wait till what happens and then plan afterwards. That's fine too, because hopefully, wishful thinking, there'll be a vaccine and stuff like that. So, yeah, all that stuff. Next. All right. So I didn't want to talk about my TDV schedule earlier, but I'll share it now. So usually for me, I teach Hipsika mode. I don't want kids that look like this kid on my slide right here. This kid looks obviously bored. Like, are you serious? And like, there's like a lot of stuff going on in his mind, and nothing shows that he's engaged or wants to be there. So what I do in my group is we have a weekly check-in. That weekly check-in goes anywhere between 5 minutes to like 20 minutes, depending on like whatever. And the topic is pretty much, hey, tell me something about your week that happened. And so sometimes kids will have a lot to share. Sometimes a lot of kids will just have like a sentence to share. And in the beginning, usually the kids will just give me one sentence. And then a month later, some of them will start giving me a little bit more background stories and stuff like that. Some kids are okay with follow-up questions. Some kids hate follow-up questions. And it's just kind of like a filling the room out and kind of thing. But the weekly check-in allows me to see my Hipsika mode kids as like human beings, knowing that they have their own struggles in life, knowing that, you know, we want to celebrate in their highs and their lows. You want to celebrate when they achieve something like creating a perfect like macaron, like, and then there's like that perfect one where like I don't even bake, but like she tells me that it's so hard to make that cookie like not crack, and like all the previous times it was like it always cracks and all this stuff, and that one time she gets it right. Perfect temperature, perfect batter, came out perfect. And she was happy, and I was happy for her, right? Other kids like to tell them about the Korean dramas they're watching. They're like, and James, you need to watch this Korean drama because it's amazing. I know you don't like Korean drama. You need to watch this one, right? And I was like, oh yeah, tell me about it. And then they'll tell me about it. stuff like that. So that one I don't really have a time limit on. I just go around the circle, and then they share, and I share with them what's going on in my life, and then it's kind of like that bonding, that relationship is key thing. Every week I focus on the weekly gospel. I know Fongcha was making those videos. I didn't like those videos personally. Some people might like them. I showed a couple to my cup, and they're like, James, like, so was cool and all, but it was a little long. Or James Hunchik was nice, but you know, it didn't make sense. And so I tried to like show them, but that never replaced my own gospel sharing with them. My gospel sharing with them was always what I thought they needed. What points of the Bible or the gospel of this week should they focus on? And I always made that personable to them. When we look at the Fengjiao, they're great resources to start off with. If you're like stuck and don't know where to go, yes, use those. But you shouldn't use that as your only go-to. Like, let's say you do it one day, you play that video on Tuesday, the day after, to remind them, right, on your social media. And so we have that. Lessons. I use the HipC curriculum, so it's nothing new, nothing crazy. But what I do like to do sometimes is add, the post intention at the beginning of the month. I talk about the post intention. We pray about it every week, subsequent week, and then we talk about current events. Like current events, not only like the Black Lives Matter movement or the George Floyd death. We also talk about like, hey, you guys hear about the Pope giving out like indulgences? James, what's indulgences? Aha, I got you. And I had that plan, and I taught them a lesson on indulgences. And that lesson is not 25 minutes like I usually do at TDV. Those lessons are like 10 minutes, 5-10 minute lessons. Things that are kind of quick and easily absorbable by the kids. And then we play a game. Usually my Sinhua time runs from an hour to an hour and a half online, depending on the day. Sometimes I got stuff to do. I tell them up front, like, hey guys, today's gonna be a short tuning day, like 45 minutes, because I gotta do this. They're like, oh, it's cool, James. And then they know. Sometimes we have too much fun and we go to like an hour and a half. Sometimes they're like, hey, James, can you, if you gotta go, you can go, but can you leave the Zoom call open so we can just hang out with each other? And I said, sure, don't do anything crazy. And then I left, right? And then like 2 times over, I'm not here. Like, you already know, we just want to talk about Minecraft. Let them be, right? And so I want it to be in a way where it's a fine balance between checking in on their mental well-being, still teaching them something, and having fun. When you make it all about academics, they deal with that Monday through Friday. That's horrible for them. If you make it all about fun, the parents aren't going to be happy. And like being fun all the time is really hard, because as much fun as you think it is, the games get redundant. You run out of game ideas. And so you got to save those games for like something else. So you have to have a fine balance of like what you're going to do during Sinhua time. That's why the Jingchen Sinhua or the Jingchen thing is important, because at least you can map things out. I find myself during the COVID situation moving a lesson back or splitting a lesson in half. Like I'll talk about half of it this week. I'll finish it up next week. But I don't feel like I need to finish it. I read the room, and you have to understand, like, sometimes kids aren't feeling it, and you just gotta make changes on the fly, right? But it's a fine balance, and I don't want to be like, oh, just don't do any teaching. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to have a fine balance, because the kids, you have to think about the kids. Because I teach online Monday through Friday, and I don't want to get tired of it. The kids have to sit there and like have a teacher like me talk to them the whole time. That's gonna be hard for them. Think about what makes teaching fun. It's not always about that lesson about St. Paul's, missions around the missionary work, right? What do they remember? They remember the bonding. They remember the friends. They remember like the fun stuff in Tunyi. But at the same time, our lessons are supposed to be like hit them repeatedly, so it embeds in them. So when they face a certain situation, they know that what's right and what's wrong. And so when we look at Sinhua, like it's a fine balance. And if you're thinking about just taking what you do at Dawn and bringing it straight to online, I hope you find a way to deliver me food, because TDV has food all the time. I Sinhua for 2 hours and then go to mass, I expect somebody to feed me, but it's not the same. So you have to have that expectation. Avoid having kids look like that, okay? But yeah. I'll pause for questions before we move on. Even if I move on, feel free to hit me up with questions. Like, I love questions. Oh. I have a question from June Tristan. June Tristan asks, can you talk more about games you play with your Hipsy mode, and what resources do you reference when you run out of game ideas? Okay. So you can play like things like Pictionary or Taboo, but you make words. You make words based on the gospel, right? And those are like some basic games. Like you can't play Steal a Bacon or anything like that. I do like Bible emoji games, but it's kind of hard to like make new Bible emoji games. What else have I done? I play Jackbox TV with my Hipsy mode kids because there's only like six of them on average. So sometimes I play Jackbox TV. Like sometimes my games aren't Bible-licious, right? And my fiance looks at me and is like, and I'm like, but you gotta have fun sometimes. So we play Jackbox TV. Sometimes I also start on like code names, and we play code names online. Like I try to mix it up. Like sometimes there's games that are Bible related, and then I play games sometimes that are just like bonding / like code names. It helps with communication skills, right? And so if I think about Tuni's mission statement, not only am I supposed to prepare them to become the most perfect Christian, but I also need to create them to be the most like a good citizen too, to help build society. So if I make a more well-rounded person, then I think I'm doing my job as a Wincho, right? So I kind of like try to create games where like sometimes like even with the Scavenger Hunt. The Scavenger Hunt, I would like today I changed it up. Like last time at that Hoyt the theme was like camp supplies. So they had stuff like go get your toothbrush, go find your sleeping bag, go find your favorite camp snack, or whatever. And so you can always take a game and you can modify it. And so even your most like favorite game, you can even like like use the whiteboard function. I know Zoom has a whiteboard function. I know that Microsoft Teams has a whiteboard function, so kids can kind of draw with their mouse and stuff like that. So you always play like drawing games. You can have them do like video competitions. Like you don't really need TikTok to do a video competition, right? So you can have those things as well. So obviously, like the more physical games you can't really have, but there are interactive, collaborative games that you kind of do online. So those are some games that off the top of my head I've done. And I also kind of like talk to other Winchos to see stuff, and I still think like later I'll talk about social media use and how you can use social media as a way of engaging kids as well. So I hope that answers your question. Kind of answers your questions, Tristan. We can talk more if you want a specific game idea. Kind of help you out with that. All right, cool. Thank you. Awesome use of the chat box. Thank you. How to get materials to kids. There was also another point that was brought up by Linda Tanya. So obviously we can't printing out handouts and like passing out in person. That's how we usually do things. Now we gotta get a little bit more like creative. So things of how to get kids your materials. I know that THD uses Google Classroom. I use Google Classroom at work as a teacher, where we can kind of upload files and kids kind of click on it and like download a PDF to look at. You can screen share. You can share the link of a Google Doc. One time, in my Lindon, they had a game during their Hajadu theme where I played this with my Hipsy kids too, where you have a Google Sheets. And on one tab of the Google Sheet, you post like a clip art picture, and then on the second tab, the kids are supposed to like fill in the tiles, the cells with paint, and kind of like replicate that picture. And so you just create a Google Doc. Okay, I see your question, Lynn. I'll get to you about it in a bit. And so sharing Google links and making them like collaborators or editors of that, it works. Like if you want to create like a slideshow, you can kind of assign kids to like work on a Google slide, and then you kind of formulate a Google slide doc. So Google links work really well when you can kind of do that. You can share links via social media or email. You can go drive-by packet pickup, like how Manganjingan down in Orange County create those camp packets and then kind of ship those out. Parents came by, drop them off. I know that in Hipsy at my Dawn in Orange County, they had like this online virtual graduation thing where they made boxes for the kids. So some kids who live by the church came by, picked it up, and left. other kids who couldn't come out, the Hunchungs, divided up, kind of like plotted all their houses, and they kind of zoned it off. Like, you go drop these 3 boxes off, you go drop these 3 boxes off, and you can do that. Or if you do collect NIM this year, registration fees, maybe that can kind of help for shipping. If you want to ship things to kids and kind of like teach them the ways of snail mail, that'd be cool too. And so you gotta get creative, right? And so parents still drive, and if they go to church, maybe you could pick up a packet and then have that packet ready for next week, right? And they kind of plan ahead. And that's why the Junjin Tating schedule is key in terms of like during this time period. That's why I said online Sinhua is much harder than in person, because I know a lot of Hunchers don't plan for Tuniyi until like Thursday, Friday night before Tuniyi. This is going to require like epic planning. Okay. Let me answer this question from Jung Lin. What should you do to encourage Hunchers to involved in Sinhua in general and online Sinhua during the pandemic? Okay. This is what, I don't know why I missed this. So earlier I kind of talked about like what kind of format you're going to use. Actually, let me back this up a little bit. First thing we should probably have is a Hunchung meeting. A Hunchung meeting where we kind of just check up on each other and see where everybody's at in life. And kind of see like, and kind of like sneak into like, what is one thing you missed about Tuniyi? And have people share about that. So you kind of trick their brain to be like, well, what do I miss about Tuniyi? And then you open this floodgates of like Tuniyi memories. And then you're like, oh yeah, dude, I really miss Tuniyi. And then you kind of have them split second, and now you gotta hook them in, right? I think, like I said earlier, I think for me, if I was Duanzheng at a Duan, I would want my Hunchungs, or I want my Duan to be split up by Gup, because if I split them up by Gup, that's now 11 Gups versus 4 Ngans. If you have 11 Gups, that means you have to have at least 11 Hunchungs to doing work. If each Hunchung is responsible for a small group of kids in a Gup, then they're kind of like locked in now. They're kind of like trapped to do work. And so when you have responsibilities, when you make a commitment, like when you commit to be a Hunchung, when you commit to be Jianzheng for this Gup, it's harder for you to kind of bail out on them, right? Like it was hard for me to kind of end Sinhua with my TDB kids. They're like, they didn't want to meet every week, so they're like, oh, James, can we meet every other week? And I was like, all right, we'll try it, right? And so we tried every other week, but then things just like got busy during the summer, and I was like, hey, let's just take a break, and then we'll catch up again in September. So when every Hunchung has an opportunity or an expectation that they're responsible for something, there's buy-in. When you Sinhua by Ngan or you Sinhua by Duan, there's a lot of unemployed Hunchungs who don't have anything to do. And so when they don't have anything to do, they're not going to do anything. And when you take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks off from Tuniyi, then you don't have no motivation, because then you just fill that Tuniyi time with something else. And so that's why it's important during this pandemic to make sure, one, your Hunchungs are mentally and spiritually taken care of first, or physically safe, and making sure that you have that connection with them. Then you want to give them responsibilities so that they can feel responsible, and that there's buy-in. Because if they're like, oh, he'll take care of it, somebody else will take care of it, I don't have to do anything, then they're not going to do anything. And so the biggest thing I found right now is when Hunchungs don't do anything, then they just check out. It's so easy for them to check out when there's nothing for them to do on a weekly basis. So I think you need to keep the Hunchungs busy. I hope that answers your question then. All right, good question. Thank you, Tristan. Thank you, Lynn, for that. Keep them coming. Keep them coming if you have any questions. I think I'm coming toward the end of my slideshow anyways. Yeah, but feel free if you have more questions, then yes. So here are some suggestions. I don't want to go through all of them. I just want to highlight a couple of things. I know that last week you guys had that online lesson with Ungung and his endless amount of songs and his beautiful voice and his ability to keep a tune and all that stuff. Man, what a guy. What a guy. But how do you convert that into like weekly practices? So like one thing that I kind of thought about was like only karaoke, or like just karaoke in general. When you're trying to teach a song, like teach a song, do it. Do how Uncle does it, where you sing a song and then they repeat after you sing that line, right? just don't expect. Just don't. I see you, Socrates. Let me finish this point, and then I'll go to that question. Once if you hear noises, don't expect a choir, because if you're teaching a song and you hear back noise, like noises come back, and like kids are kind of screaming and singing along, that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Like, as long as they're learning a song, it don't need to sound good online. And I think that's a lot of things like people are concerned about. One one even did a Yonghua routine on Zoom. Mind blowing. I don't know what program they use, but they were able to move Mary to the center, and then they like outline Mary with like all these like Nisi girls like around, and they were Yonghua do a song. Obviously, some was like off, but it was cool. I was like, who would have thought that Dawn could do a Yonghua during the pandemic, right? And so you gotta come with me. So I have that stuff. Let me look at this question first, and then I'll kind of go into the fall camp that I kind of was thinking about, because I know that's coming up for some dorms too. All right, let me see. Seymour. Oh, wait. Oh no, that's not a question. That's just the link. Oh. All right. So, let me see what else. So some of the stuff I already talked about on the left side. The right side, the fall camp. The fall. I know it's not going to be traditional. And can you still do Dojung? Yes, I think you can. You can do a lot of the theory components, like teaching what is a Dojung, what does it mean to Song Tante, what are the qualities of a Dojung, right? All that stuff. But like, you gotta come up with ways for them to actually do things, right? So like empowering them how to lead prayer, reading the gospel out loud, how to project their voice, how to do closing prayer. So that's like, oh, hey Jimmy, can you lead prayer? Oh yeah, I got you. And like, come on, where's that personal connection, right? Like, teach them how to really pray. How do we really song tante? How do we live a life of prayer? Some of the other things, right? You can trust certain kids, even like Until. I think Until can lead a breakout session with Hunter supervision in the room, of course, right? Give them a prompt, give them a duty, give them a task to do, and then they have to do it with their group in their thing. Hipsy kids, same thing. They can lead a group discussion, give them the prompt, they can run the discussion. Administrative tasks. The hardest thing with me is like, I text the group chat like, hey, like this message if you're going to tune you today online. Some of them text it, and then like they don't. Some like, yo, is it just me and Min today? And then like, oh no, I'm calling on, and then like, I get like 5 more kids call on, right? And so if you have kids reach out and like, hey, remember this tune you today, then that's one less job for you. Or like, hey, Tommy, can you check on why John didn't show up to tune you today? Like, all right, and then they can message each other and like, hey, and then like, oh, I'm James. John's at his grandpa's house, can't go to me. So you teach them that stuff, the ability to like, how do you craft the message? How do you speak to other people, right? And you want to develop projects for their governments, like Nanye and Hipsy. They can kind of create projects. Look at THD and their Instagram page, right? Or you can kind of teach Hipsy kids how to lead weekly gospel, or they can run a Bahua Ting campaign, stuff like that. So Dong is still available. You can still do it. And some of the burden that you have, like you can flip it and give it to the Jungs or Falls to run, and you just project manage. Just make sure, hey, what's the update on this? What's going on here? And always be ready to jump in when kids fail. Kids will always fail. You just have to be ready to do it. So you guys gotta come in and fill in the blanks, right? So yeah. So those are some of my activity suggestions that we can do. Oh, dude, what was that? Don Bosco, Richmond, Virginia. Dude, big shout out to you guys. Because during the town hall, I kind of suggested that now would be a good time to kind of like invite guest speakers, because 1, you don't really have to pay for their flight to come over. 2, you just gotta log on, right? And like Don Bosco, every week I check out their like Instagram or like Facebook page. They have a new guest speaker every week. And it's like big hitters like So Huyn or Jat Tom. An Young showed up. They called everybody, right? And I was like, dang, they took that dog took my advice pretty well. And I was kind of happy to see, people willing to step up and say, yeah, I'll come teach a lesson for you guys. So yeah, that's some good stuff right there. Anything about activities? Because my last part we'll talk about resources and use of social media. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about from what I've already talked about before I go into social media, and resources. All right. I hope people are just waiting for the Q&A session at the end. All right, thank you. Socrates, next one. All right. Social media. Oh, man. All right. So me and my bachelor partner, Lindon, we've been discussing what's the best way to use our social media. And a lot of times, like the old school frame of thought is, like social media should just be used to like pump out like information. Like we're meeting on this day, we share some pictures, and then we just post some random stuff and stuff like that, and nothing else. No real engagement. It's just like barely like it's just like a newsletter or like just updates and stuff. But if you use your social media correctly, you can expand your tuning time for just from the weekend to practically the entire week. And your branding is very important because what I've seen in Linda myself especially is there is a highly competitive sense of like Dawn pride where it affects us when we have to go to Vedat and we have to work together. Like we spend so much time trying to outdo one another that when it's time to actually work together to like, you know, go against other Lindons or Mins back in the day, like we were so like, we would not bring our best A game because we don't want to show what our frame of thought was, and we were just like, we don't want to give away our secrets on this and that. And I think it's just like, oh man. And so that is like one of the downfalls. But what's good about the sense of pride is that if you look at a Dwan in Little One Songs like social media account, those things are always popping. There's always something going on. There's always a highlight, and it's like exposure. Like the more kids see good content on social media, the more likely they're going to be like, oh man, our Dawn is so cool. Look at what we're doing and stuff like that. And I think more than ever, when kids can't really physically put on their uniform and go hang out with kids other ways, you need to build that sense of like Dawn pride, Dawn unity through social media. And once you have them hooked in through it, then you can start to expand your base. You can teach them how to self-identify. You can teach them by using the stories, like remember to pray this, or you can post the prayer on the story. And so when they're going through the stories and they see the prayer, there's a higher chance that they would pray the prayer. They would read the prayer along. So you can use social media in a way where not only are you giving out information, but you can use it as a teaching tool to allow them to self-identify or to do Bohua Tig, or you know, and more than just like the reminder stuff, or like a lot of things that I've been seeing is like people using the app Canva and making those like bingo sheets or whatever to kind of like have people like be nostalgic on like Dawn memories and think about all the good times that we had, and hope that the pandemic ends so that we can have more good times going forward. So think about expanding your use of social media. Next slide, I give some suggestions on like how we can kind of do it. On the left side, I kind of split in like more like spiritual actions. You do online mass adoration viewing party, Bahua 10 campaigns. You could do daily gospels, right? Not just weekly. You could do prayer intentions. So if somebody passed away or somebody's sick, you can kind of put that out there to show that we're kind of in this prayer together. We can talk about saints of the day. I already talked about Dawn bonding. One Dawn was doing culture yucca every week through social media. A lot of Dawns do Spirit Week, where they kind of like have different themes for each day. Kids will kind of like take pictures, hashtag it. And so when you go on to hashtag time 10, you might see like a bunch of like Dawn stuff from there. Others have been using it as a Drin Mode challenge, where they kind of put Morse code messages. They use it like a fancy backdrop on Canva. They put it up there, and then kids will do it, and then they turn it in. Hopefully first, like the top 5, and they'll get a prize or something like that. Or even birthday shout outs, you know, like birthday shout outs are always cool. Kids like to see their faces on other networks and stuff like that. So the use of social media can help kids stay connected to the Dawn, because the further they stay away, and I think this is the biggest thing. If a Dawn decides not to stay online, you are doing more harm than good. You're doing harm because you're not giving the kids an outlet. You're not preaching the word of God. Plus, if you don't Sinhua online, and they see other Duan Sinhua online, they're like, what the? Why is they doing something? Why are we doing something? And you might lose membership. And especially in Winsong, where the 14 Duans are so close to each other, if one Duan doesn't do anything, that might harm them in the long run because they might just go to another church that's only like 5 miles away from them. And so you have to think about like the sustainability of Duan. Not only it's not like for like that's why like for me like I like if I was on, I wouldn't take them either, right? Because what's more important is making sure you have a constant place for Kek M to come to Sinhua, to learn about God, so that when you have issues like social issues, you have an opportunity to teach them the way of the church, rather than having them learn from wherever they're learning from YouTube blogs or any blogs or whatever they're reading it from. At least they have a reliable source in you as a Hunchug, right? And so Sinhuaing online may not be the best, but it's better than nothing. And if you and I hope that if you do need help, I know that Anhil and Jinyung is willing to provide resources and help to make sure that you guys get up and going. So I don't think resources and stuff like that is an issue. I'll even be available for consultations or even like a lesson once in a while, stuff like that. So using social media, and then finally, my last slide of real content is resources. And Hugh asked me to talk about how do we know what sources are good? Because in a time of the power of Google and all this stuff, like what is good content, what is bad content? And I don't want to give you a list of like things that I like, because some person might be like, oh, you're too liberal, you're too conservative, like what about this, what about that? So I went this route. If you are strong in catechism, you know your catechist, not just because you went to Yao Li and you got confirmed. That does not make you an expert in catechism. Just because you went to Gut Mo, does not make you an expert in catechism. What makes you an expert in catechism is if you constantly study and you know these resources on here. So the Vatican website has a resource page. The USCCB has a resource page. The Catechism of the Catholic Church is that small, fat book that talks about everything about our faith. And if you don't want to read that, then we have UCAT. Thank you to Pope Benedict, right? If you can master these resources that I listed here, this list of 4, if you understand where the churches is, then you can 100% be able to tell what is right and what is wrong. What are good resources and what are wrong resources. And so my suggestion for resources is familiarize, relearn, go through the UCAT, go through catechism, go through USCCB for resources that you may have, so that you can understand the basics of the church first, and then you can kind of expand from there, right? And I do want to put this out. Our church, Jesus Christ, was more pastoral, more compassionate. The Old Testament of like, if you do wrong and you will burn in hell, that is Old Testament for a reason, because it's old and outdated. Jesus came down to save us, to teach us the way. He ate dinner with the most bad people ever. He forgave sinners. And that's the message that we as Christians should spread as well. We need to continue the message of Jesus Christ, which is compassion, which is a pastoral approach. And we want to bring back the black sheep. We don't want to condemn them. And so I think that is a big message that I want to get across, especially when dealing with the political season coming up, the election season coming up. That's when all the social injustice thing is going down. If you have issues, a question about social injustice, and you already did UCAT, then level up and read DoCat. There is an app on the App Store on iOS. It's UCAT Daily, which gives you stuff from UCAT and DoCat. DoCat deals with more social justice issues, stuff like that. And if you check in every day for 3 years, you'll be you've gone through everything. And it's like a 5-minute read each day, which is pretty cool. And so that's my spiel on resources. And I want to end with any Q&A we may have. I know it's a lot of information, It's crazy amount, but I just want to make sure that you guys have a little bit of everything from like the foundations to resources to kind of scheduling and kind of like the heart of everything, that relationship. So I'll leave it up for any questions right now. And Hugh has the link to this PowerPoint or this Google Slides. It's view only for everybody, so whoever has a link can view it. I don't mind sharing it with anybody. Toonie, I do work for Toonie for free. So yeah, questions, comments, concerns, sharing things, give it to you guys. Thank you.
Hi, and James.
Yes.
Hi, this is Socrates. Question. So I think you touched upon this throughout your presentation, but you know how the numbers, at the start of virtual Sinhua, throughout time, the numbers will start dwindling, right? I'm kind of curious, like from your end, did you guys like ask the kids specifically why are they not showing up, or what are some multiple reasons why they're not showing up?
For me, I never really asked why kids don't show up. We have a chat group on Facebook Messenger where me and Jungda are both in the chat group, so we have two Hunchers in the chat group. I put it out there, kids call on, and when we finish the session, I kind of go back and go like, yo, I missed anybody who didn't call on today. Just because like during this time period, it's so crazy. Like you don't even know if kids have internet connection or not, And so like some kids are kind of embarrassed with that. Like we're so poor that we don't have internet, or like my internet's really bad, or I don't have enough like devices to call on to Toonie. And so like rather than like kind of ask like infringing onto like their privacy, I want them to know that I'm always here for them. If they want, if they need anything, they can feel free to message me on the side. They can email me on the side, and I can help them with whatever I possibly can. And I put that out there every week for them. And sometimes kids tell me that they had something going on, like they were at their grandparents' house or whatever. And once you build that relationship, like Hipsy kids, in my experience with Hipsy kids, they'll tell me like why they can't go today. But I think it's one of those things where it's just like sometimes like schedule doesn't match, and I think that's a big thing, right? TDV will usually send at 4:30, and then we'll be done and go to mass and stuff like that. But then mass usually at TDV was like at 7, but then Jad decided to push mass up to like 5, and then they're like, James, we can't do this because I have to go to mass. And I was like, what online mass are you watching? You're like, we're watching St. Elizabeth. And then I was like, oh, Jad moved the time of mass. We're like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's just move mass. We'll just move our Simpark time then. So we pushed Simpark time back after mass so that kids who could go to mass with their parents can go to Toonie with us afterwards. And so it's just like that communication thing. Numbers usually are going to start low unless you have a very strong like drawn pride where kids will want to be on as much as possible and stuff like that. And I think it's just like that idea of like the more information you give to the parents and the kids, the more like, oh, they're really ready to go. And then they're like, you'll probably see more numbers to start off with. And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, are you coming off ready and prepared? Versus like, is it unknown? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, they don't know what you're doing and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll post like screenshots of the games we're playing into the chat groups, like, hey, memories, and also kind of to like tempt kids, like, yo, what the heck, what are they playing? And then they want to come on next time and stuff like that too. So, yeah, don't let numbers don't do. That's why when I work out, I don't go on the scale, because if I work out and the numbers don't drop, I get discouraged and I start working out. Like, you just gotta do what you do. Just don't look at the numbers.
Guys, can I chime in real quick here? Something that and James had talked about, and I was just kind of dwelling in my mind too. I think the parent connection is extremely important, and I think James had mentioned about a parent group, and I'm wondering if, as you guys start your programming for the next year, have you interacted with parents? Should we set up a town hall with parents ourselves? Like, we are parents, TA and I are parents. We have different we take a look at things from a different standpoint, and some of the reasons why, when you talk to parents, why the kids are not joining, it's family related. They tell you all these sorts of different things, and if you don't have that connection with the parents, like, and James had mentioned, like a group, email group or something like that, where there's a feedback, you're not going to know why the kids are dwindling. So one, I wonder if we need to set up something like this so that there's you guys can ask us as parents from our perspective, or two, have you guys been doing that as well in your local chapters? Because that perspective is important, because I see a lot of things that James is talking about that some of the kids cannot even do. And when you wonder why the kids are dropping but don't get to the bottom of the answers, I think their direct connection is through the parents. So that's, I just wanted to chime in on that. And if you guys are interested, we can set up something where, you know, we can have a heart to heart with some of the Huynh Trưởng who are parents, or some parents that we know of who have kids in thiếu nhi. That would be, I think that would be interesting. That's a good question. Any other questions before we send it off to NTA? Okay, TA, take it away.
All right, sounds good. Xin cảm ơn Trưởng James. It's very good. I know it's ran over the slot, the slot time, but we appreciated it, and hopefully that from these sessions, everybody here, we got inspired. We picked up some tips and tricks to go in the next year with a wonderful virtual program for our kids. And especially keep in mind, one thing that keep in my mind is that to be consistent, once we start with it, we have to follow through with it. All right. Xin cảm ơn các trưởng, xin cảm ơn trưởng James, trưởng Hiếu, cảm ơn các trưởng đã attend the sessions, and hopefully that everything we do it in the Father's glory. Sáng danh Đức Chúa Cha và Đức Chúa Con và Đức Chúa Thánh Thần, như đã có trước vô cùng và bây giờ và hằng có và đời đời chẳng cùng. Amen. Nhân Cha và Con và Thánh Thần. Amen. Xin cảm ơn các trưởng.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, James.